Hey there, Tammy Davis here. Thank you so much for joining me. And because I've been talking a lot about the stress response, it's been on my mind to actually kind of shed some light on what we can do. I mean, we always hear that if we think positive and we employ mindfulness, that we will be improving the state of our health, which there's a lot of validity to that. That's absolutely correct. But I wanted to actually illustrate, so to speak. I was contemplating doing this as a written piece, and I still may do that yet. But I just finished writing one on seeing the good and the bad, which you can find on my website at synergessence.com. And you can kind of get a snippet. Unless you subscribe to my newsletter, then you get the whole thing. I was starting that out to be a blog, and then became very involved because I do address various chemicals in the body that we recognize as either good or bad, histamine being one of them, right? We all know that histamine's bad, but that's not the case. There's actually a good side to everything, as there's a bad side to everything, as in the case of oxygen. So if you want to learn more about that, just definitely, sign up for my newsletter and you'll get a copy of that, and you'll have access to the archived issues as well. But as I was writing that, I was getting very involved with it. I got really excited about it and alluded to the fact of doing the next one regarding reactions and how this is all playing out in the system. Again, this could go on and on and on, and so trying to break it up so that it is more digestible, if you will. So that said, today I wanted to go over a little bit about reactions versus response, and kind of give you some idea as to why, even more, kind of like I said, illustrate and understand why it's really good for us to pay attention. And I don't necessarily like to use that word. It's effective for us to pay attention to what we are reacting to versus to what we are responding. Neither one is good or bad. If you are, say, in a car accident or about to be in a car accident, and you're taking that time to contemplate what you should do, that would be a response, and that may not be the most effective way. You want to be kind of, more reactionary. But reaction, again, isn't good or bad. A reaction can mean repeating old actions. So that means it's a past-based. It's past-based actions. So you're taking steps that are essentially being motivated by past experiences. That would be the typical response. The typical description for reaction. Now, these words are becoming a little mingled. That said, there is also another type of reaction that occurs, and this is the part that I kind of wanted to highlight, because it's really when we get in sync with it, right? When we're actually syncing up with how nature works, which is a series of reactions that generate adaptations. And so in theory, at that level, it's almost like nature there's not a mindfulness to it. There's not, there's an indescribable, there's just that instinctual knowing that we all have and that we've all experienced. That would be, I don't know if we have a word in our vocabulary. And if we do, I'm not coming up with it right now. But it's kind of like it is the response reaction kind of thing. But this is what happens in nature, is there is a deliberate step taken that is in direct response, if you will, instinctual response to what's going on. And this is occurring in our system at all times. This is what happens throughout nature at all times. A plant is exposed to something, and the DNA makes the necessary adjustments to create the chemistry, to alter the chemistry, to send out, protection signals, and so on. So this is what actually occurs in nature, and it happens within our own system, and it's occurring at all times. That said, when we are thinking and emotionally reacting on a rapid basis, which we do because we live in that world that everything should have happened 10 days ago, we are stimulating, if you will, or I should say, not even stimulating, we are imposing all of that information into our bodies, which is now being compounded with everything else the body's being exposed to. So let's just say, for instance, you just drove through a fertilizer bloom, meaning they just sprayed the fields and there's like all this chemical in the air, right? You've just driven through that. So now the body has to do what it needs to do to keep you as safe as possible. Oftentimes it's going to stimulate, it's always going to stimulate an immune reaction. This is where your histamine comes in. And if, depending on your system, you may develop, itchy, watery eyes, you may start sneezing, coughing, even develop a sore throat, depending on how long you've been exposed to it. This is an immediate, instinctual response to the environment. Now, if you're driving along and at the same time you're worried about something, and you're contemplating things, and so your mind is going on. So now you are exacerbating this occurrence. And so this is the part that I wanted to really highlight, which is when we actually allow ourselves to begin slowing down and paying attention to those things that are non-emergency situations, and recognizing, kind of just checking in with ourselves. I mean, what is driving me here? Am I worried about what could happen, or what am I, thinking that this is going to be a repeat experience? If those are kind of thoughts that are, that you can register with, then you might want to just give yourself a moment to just breathe and reconsider coming from it from a different perspective when you're not worried about what could happen or what did happen. Those are the repeated actions from previous experiences, and those tend to kind of backfire, and more often than not, sometimes they don't. But the point to all of that is this is not a counseling session. So I oftentimes will make remarks because it means something to me. In this case, though, the reason it's important is even though we may feel subdued, or we appear to be calm on the outside with these thoughts going on through our heads, these are inflammatory responses. These are worries and concerns. You've alerted your system that there's something to be worried about. The body cannot distinguish the difference between paying a bill versus, an animal jumping out or a child jumping out in front of your car. It doesn't know the difference. This is where we come in as humble yet necessary partners with our bodies, because we are able to recognize what is an emergency and what's a non-emergency. And this is where the mindful thinking, the deliberate cessation of overthinking, the thoughtfulness of applying ourselves in that moment and really getting to the point of understanding, okay, is this in alignment with what I desire, or is what I'm about to do in alignment with something that I'm worried about? And if it's in alignment with what you desire, then by all means, take that responsible, thoughtful action. If it is not, then give yourself the moment just to kind of go inward. And the reason for this is to be intentionally soothing to your system, to actually let your body know that it's okay to do what it's doing, and that you got this stuff handled out here. I mean, truthfully, we don't have all the environmental toxins. We don't have all that stuff handled. And your body is working really hard to keep you as safe and as healthy as possible. And when we can start implementing these thoughtful responses and being able to distinguish the difference for the body, actually partnering and allowing our mind to be the best partner the body could have, to actually begin to know what it is that needs to be inflamed. Okay, because think about it. If you think about the environmental toxins, and you're having these instinctual responses happening in the system, okay, that's going to cause an inflammation, right? That's what happens. That's the reason why you start sneezing, why you start itching, why you get a sore throat. This is an inflamed reaction, okay? It's an inflamed experience. If we top that off with inflamed worries or inflamed emotions because we're pissed off at somebody, or somebody that's aggravated us. I mean, the fact is that we cannot control other people. So if you're driving in traffic and somebody does something, mindless, I totally get the aggravation, absolutely. But at some point we have to shake it off, right? And being able to dispel that energy so the body can stabilize itself and work in your favor. So this is where the mind comes in. This is where awareness really is a big factor in our health. It's to distinguish the difference between and the need to be inflamed versus the need to be calmer. Like I said, in an emergency situation, inflamed, you want to be on fire, right? You want to be on fire in an emergency situation because your life is on the line. Your survival is at stake. This is a necessary situation to be inflamed, but there are other times where it's just you and your computer, or you and a phone, or you behind the wheel of a car. And, and granted, even you with somebody else, that doesn't warrant the degree of excitability that we're allowing ourselves to fall into. And I'm offering this really as a place of finding inner peace. Because truthfully, the inner peace is the important component to whether or not your body will actually allow your system to relax and actually deactivate the stress response. There are other factors that go into deactivating the stress response, as I've mentioned before. Working with the digestive system. Truthfully, using essential oils, mindfully using specific essential oils, definitely using less of everything. I just got a voicemail today. I was half tempted to play it on here just so you guys could hear it, but it leaves the name, so I just can't figure out how to erase that just yet. But she called to tell me that after she slowed down on the number of supplements and actually reduced the amount of oils that she was using, as I suggested, she's actually feeling a lot better. And this is a woman who was diagnosed with MS now 22 years ago. So this is exciting when you actually allow the body to deactivate. I mean, we had to kickstart her for a little bit, but then eventually backed her off of a lot of things. And in turn, we deactivated the stress response, and she is feeling better than she ever has in 22 years. So, so dealing with the digestive system, paying attention to what we are reacting to in the environment, including essential oils to actually assist with cell responses so that the body can begin to deactivate itself. Does it mean you have to live on these things forever? You know what? There was a point in time in my career that I would have said yes, but the fact is that you don't. That's in an ideal world. I'll say that much. That's in an ideal world. But if you're living on planet Earth and you're in, the middle of your life, and you've lived with years of stress, and the fact is that at this point, even our children have been exposed to so much stress, even from being in utero, that including essential oils is a very good idea. Beyond that, we all know that exercise is good, yoga is exceptional, being out in nature is about the best remedy that I know. I know other people enjoy their art. And so these are some ideas just to get your mind off of the immediate concerns and just allow your body to settle down for a little bit. And the inclusion of the oils, and you'll have to forgive me for this, but I'm a big advocate for them, as you know, because they actually are recognized. Now, I'm saying all of this, but there's a lot of people on pharmaceuticals, and to include essential oils with your medications is a good idea, and you would do well to get some professional assistance with that, because there are so many interactions with medications and other chemicals, and essential oils are other chemicals. That's just a fact. It's a chemical like a caffeine. It's a chemical, okay? So it's not any different. And there's certain medications that you can't have caffeine with. So it's important to understand how to utilize essential oils to serve your body at the best, because let me just say it this way. If you're taking medications and they are targeting the system for this particular reason, could be diabetes, could be depression, could be anything. So, but they're very specific in what that was really a mistake for me to say, because diabetic medication, it has different ones do different things in the body. The same thing with antidepressants. They all target different genetic receptors. So understanding not just the medication, but clearly also the mechanism of action within the system is absolutely necessary. And the reason for that is because you don't want to select essential oils or herbs that are going to have the same effects on the system. Otherwise, the body naturally recognizes, I'm going to use the word again, natural over man-made. It will recognize and use the things that are natural over what's man-made. And the reason why, and if you're doing something that is duplicating what your medications are already doing, you are now increasing the blood serum levels of these medications and potentially setting yourself up for toxicity. So this is the reason why you can't be doing the same thing. This is why it's not a good idea to be taking antidepressants and using herbs that are good for depression or recommended for depression. So it's a very important thing to know what you're doing and how to blend them all. This is the reason why I suggest getting professional assistance. I also encourage including as much as you can into the simplest of products. And that's the reason why I've just started doing, I'm recommending, you can actually incorporate like your skincare and your personal and your healthcare all into one. That way you're not putting as much information into the system. But that's something that's a possibility. But at the very least, get yourself some professional help when it comes to incorporating your oils and herbs, if you're taking herbs and your medications, and being very mindful about what you're selecting so that you don't influence even more of a stress response, and that you're actually being mindful to deactivate it. So, and as I mentioned a little while ago, time in nature is always good. That's my go-to. That's my space of creativity. I've been playing with and creating gardens my entire life. And I'm going to put some information in the description box below because I am very pleased to announce that I am launching a community-based healing sanctuary garden. It's going to be open to the general public, but the whole purpose of this is to it's free to the public, and it's targeted. There's going to be a certain time slots, that there will be certain populations that will only be in the garden at the time. This is kind of like a horticulture therapy, but not so much unless the person brings their therapist. This is basically people get to come in, they get to work in the garden, they get to grow food and herbs and even plants that are used for dyes. We're going to use all of these things to make crafts and dried teas and to sell the produce so that the garden can become financially sustainable all on its own. So this is a nonprofit garden that, like I said, is free. There's no fee to come in. The only requirement is that you can come in and participate at whatever level. This is open to all ages, and it's not going to be open until next year. That's, like I said, it's in the development stages at this point, but I'm really, really excited about this. This is the next step in Synergescence. So like I said, there's information down below. I'm currently doing some crowdfunding on kiva.org. That information is in the description box if you're interested in supporting this endeavor. All monies loaned will definitely be repaid. This is not a donation. This is just a way of getting this financed, because this is a very exciting thing for me. And then once we get up and running, you'll have information. You'll be kept up to date as to what your contribution provided to the autistic community, to those with other mental health and emotional instabilities, addiction recovery, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, everyone. So I look forward to hearing from you and your support, and I always appreciate your support. And if you have any questions, by all means, let me know. Tammy at synergescence.com. All right, thanks. You guys have a great day. Bye.